Hey, what's up, guys? We hear a lot about could there have been crime scene staging? Well, what if there was crime scene staging? Just like there was an 8-hour delay in calling 911. If Dylan really cared about her roommates and she considered them friends, then why didn't she go check on Xana when she heard Xana crying the night of the unalivings? Instead, she just stayed in her bedroom and shut the door. She could have fled the house that night after seeing, quote-unquote, the man clad in black. She could have fled the house that night. She could have opened up her window and climbed out and ran away. But she didn't. Or so we're led to believe. Just like Bethany, who was on the first floor. She could have climbed out her window and ran away, or she could have just ran out the front door. Because we've all been told that the attack didn't start on the first floor, so Bethany was basically left alone on the first floor. And if we're all being told by the coroner, if they were asleep in their beds, or so we've been told, then why would Steve G say there was one hell of a battle going on the second floor? And we've all heard the stories that there was a video camera left behind the house by the photography class. Why would you leave a camera behind the house running for 12 hours? And they allegedly caught a girl running away from the side of the house at 2 a.m, right as a car was pulling into the driveway in front of the house. Now, we all know that car pulling in at 2 a.m. was Kaylee and Maddie coming back from the bar. Well, who was the girl running away from beside the house, up the embankment? Who was that? Was that a lookout, maybe? And why was that van shoe print barely able to be seen? There had to be some type of cleanup going on in that 8-hour gap calling 911. Because the only way that it saw the shoe print was using chemicals. And why do we still have a gag order with Brian being in custody? That's kind of odd to me. It don't make no sense. Why still have a gag order when your alleged suspect is in jail? There's just something about this case that smells cover-up. I smell a cover-up. But who's covering it up? Could it be LE? Could it be the state? Could it even be the college? Because why did they want to have that house torn down so quickly? And yes, it was a year after the unalivings, but they wanted it torn down as soon as the year was over and it was December of last year, that house was gone. Gone, and the parts to it buried deep somewhere, and they won't say where. Because according to Scott Green, they didn't want some sicko with a macabre fantasy for their murder memorabilia getting a hold of any piece of the house. This case, each day I look at this case and I shake my damn head. You have 4 beautiful lost souls, who lost their lives. You have a prosecutor who seems to throw a hissy fit in a court hearing every time he don't get his way. You have a university who clearly reeks of corruption. And you have grieving families. The Gonzalez's, the Cronodals, the Chapins, the Mogans. But out of all 4 families, the Gonzalez family is the only ones speaking out and speaking up. You don't hear from the Mogans, you don't hear from the Chapins, and you don't hear from the Cronodals. Now, with Stacy Chapin saying 2 a.m. is a dark hour, it just makes me think, could the unalivings that took place before the 4 a.m. supposed timeline? I mean, who was that girl running away from the side of the house that was captured on video at 2 a.m. as Kaylee and Maddie's Uber pulled in at 1:56 a.m.? And was Dylan and Bethany complicit with what happened that night? Because clearly they weren't asleep. Whatever the police found on their cell phones when they did the digital download, could they have been texting during the unalivings? Maybe trying to figure a way to get out of the house. Or maybe they knew the person that did it or people that did it, and they were scared and stayed in their rooms. But we'll never know this because of the gag order, which is stupid. You don't need the gag order anymore because your suspect is in custody. The only thing I can think of the reason why they have the gag order is because they don't want us, the public, finding out exactly what's really going on in this case. And yes, this case does reek of cover-up. From the prosecutor sealing everything up, from the U of I, and don't get me started on the frats. This case reeks of cover-up because they're trying their hardest to keep us, the public, from finding out what's going on in this case. And Dylan and Bethany, well, Bethany especially, she's in hiding in Reno, Nevada, and she's lawyered up. And Dylan, according to her dad, is a social recluse, and all she does is smoke weed and play video games all day, and goes out for the occasional morning run. Personally, I don't think Dylan's going to testify in this case. I honestly don't. Because, she's going to get cross-examined, and All she knows is he's 5'10" or taller, clad in black, bushy eyebrows. I bet you she couldn't even identify what color eyes he has. And not to only mention that, the toxicology report. The coroner said the toxicology report is a non-issue. A non-issue. And everybody in that town knew that house was a party house. Chad Moy called in a noise complaint on that house. Everybody in that neighborhood did not like the fact that the house was a party house. They didn't like it. Several Uber drivers refused to pick up anybody that lived near that house, because that house was a party house 4 days out of the week. Four days. And half the parties going on in that house, the roommates weren't even home. There was people in there without the roommates being present. And yes, we've all seen the body cam footage. Hunter Johnson getting reprimanded by Blaker and that other dude, because they were like legit in a house where none of the tenants were home, throwing a party, and Blaker was threatening to file breaking and entering charges on all of them. Yeah. Then the whole thing, the coroner told us, oh yeah, they were all murdered in their beds. If that's the case, where would one hell of a battle be taking place on the second floor? While Xana and Ethan were laying in bed? Because I don't think that. Xana's fingers were nearly severed because she was putting up one hell of a fight. Just like Kaylee. Kaylee was fighting the attacker too. And how was she doing that? Laying in the bed with Maddie? If she was laying down, I'm pretty sure the person vertical standing over her could overpower her. Kaylee would have had to have been standing up, fighting for her life, and not laying in bed and just taking the stabbing. Because Steve G says, you don't make me be the alpha. And I believe there's a video online somewhere that shows Steve G teaching Kaylee how to shoot a gun. I'm damn sure that Kaylee, wasn't laying on her back fighting against the attacker who was standing over her. Kaylee was standing toe to toe with whoever did this, fighting for her life, as well as Xana and as well as Ethan. They were standing toe to toe with the attacker, fighting for their lives. And could it have been staged? Could they have all been killed in the common area and their bodies moved to the beds? Possibly. They all could have been killed in the common area, which is that giant living room on the second floor. Because why else would a Banshee print be so non-visible? Somebody cleaned it up. and somebody cleaned up the common area too. That's more likely why we had the 8-hour delay. And if you look, from the shot of that cop standing there, at the sliding glass door, if you look along one of the cupboards, dripping down one of the cupboard doors is blood. So could the 8-hour delay from calling 911 because the entire freaking town knew before the cops knew? Could they have been in there cleaning the crime scene? Because Hunter Johnson claims he's the one that found Xana and Ethan laying in their beds, laying in the bed together. Could the rest of the people that either Dylan or Bethany called over that morning, could they have cleaned the crime scene before they called the cops? And my bet is 100%. Somebody cleaned that crime scene before the cops were called. Because that van shoe print wouldn't have been as invisible as it was, and the only way they found it was with amino black. And the only way it would show up with amino black is if there was bodily fluid on it. Like always, like, subscribe, and comment on my channel. Hit that bell notification for any new uploads. And hit that share button. Y'all have a good Memorial Day. And peace. TCC out.